Laredo Independent School District Board of Trustees public hearing. Laredo Independent School District Board of Trustees public hearing, Thursday, August the 25th, 2016, Amber Erie Boardroom. Call meeting to order.
Roll call. Dr. Celia Moreno.
Option.
Hector Noyola.
Here.
Mr. Jesus Martinez present. Mr. Jose Valdez.
Present.
Mr. Ricardo Garza. Not here yet. Mr. Hector Garcia.
I am present.
Mr. Jose R. Perez. Okay, we have a quorum, Madam President. Yes, thank you.
Pledge of allegiance.
Okay,
Pledge of Allegiance. Hey, Mr. Martinez.
thank you. Everybody please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Okay.
Okay, next item, public meeting to discuss the 2016-17 budget and proposed tax rate and to allow for public participation.
Thank you, Dr. Moreno. I'm sorry, did you read the agenda item?
Yes.
Yes. Ms. Ayala?
Thank you, Dr. Nelson. Good evening, Madam Board President, Board of Trustees, and colleagues. The purpose of this meeting is to discuss the school district's budget that will determine the tax rate that will be adopted today. Of course, we encourage public participation. I will begin with the presentation that was published in the newspaper. This is not a mandatory publication, but we do it for transparency purposes. And what drives the tax rate is the expenditures in the general operating fund, which is Fund 199. The assumptions that we used for revenue, of course, we have three main drivers, which is student counts, property values, and of course, tax effort. For our revenues,
It's a computer, guys.
we are estimating $204,126,855. And in the appropriations, we are appropriating $201,376,448 for general operating fund expenditures, and transfers out in the amount of $2,750,407, which provide for us a balanced budget. In the debt service fund, which is Fund 511, we are estimating revenues in the amount of $27,235,352, with appropriations of $26,953,113. I'm sorry, let me repeat that, $26,953,113, with transfers out in the amount of $409,888. And we have a slightly increasing fund balance in the amount of $6,252,624.
An increase in the amount of 6 million?
Yes, that's increasing the fund balance actually by $692,000.
That's what I meant. It's an
Yes.
increase of 600.
To that amount, yes. If you notice, the fund balance is in $5.5 million. And so in order to provide that level of revenues, I'll move on to the proposed tax rate. The maintenance tax in box 1, you see the maintenance tax rate at 104, and the debt service tax rate at 0.3497. And that is a decrease from last year's rate that was 0.3,
36.
the debt service, 0.3, what was it?
It was 36 or something like that.
Oh, it's in the other box. It was 0.35555. In the second box, we see the comparison of the proposed budget with last year's budget. In the M&O, we see a 0.30% decrease, and in the debt service, we have a 0.02 decrease. In the total expenditures, 0.26% decrease. Next, in the third box, we have the total appraised value,
So we're spending a little less this coming year?
slightly. In the third box, we have total appraised value and total taxable value. I would focus on the total taxable value of all property, which we use that for the levy. Last year's amount was $2,082,068,785. The current year taxable value will be at $2,143,041,612, which is an increase of about $60 million. The bonded indebtedness, our outstanding principal amount stands at $226,999,337. Then we have the comparison of proposed tax rates with last year's rates. You see that last year's rate we had was at 1.3955, and we are proposing a 1.3897 rate.
Slight decrease.
Yes, less than 1 penny. We have a decrease of actually .00580, and that was due to the increase in property value. Then we have the comparison of proposed levy with last year's levy on an average residence. The average market value of a residence last year was $75,364. For the upcoming year, it should be at $75,334. And that is the average market value. The average taxable value of a residence stands at $44,057. And for the
The
upcoming,
value of our residences has decreased slightly.
the average,
Total taxable value has increased slightly, so there's
Correct.
probably additional
it's probably in the commercial area, yes.
coming in.
Yes, ma'am.
And I just want to note also, just so that we can all understand how these numbers work, that local revenue per student, we're generating slightly more, 1,294, right, per student?
This will be on the local taxes,
Right.
yes.
But we will generate slightly more than we did last year.
A little bit more, yes.
But the end result is on the other side of the state. The state will give us slightly less because we generated more.
Correct. That's the way it works. The more local values increase, the less the state will provide.
When was the last time that formula changed?
It's always been like
Like
that, yes.
decades,
That our total
it balances
taxable value is what you call our local effort, our local match.
And so if we collect more, we get less.
Yes, in part of the
Theoretically.
formula for state funding itself, if we don't collect at all, we don't get state funding.
It's part of the state's
Basically.
way of keeping equity or
Yes.
quality and keeping it a checks and balance in there, that if you do, you can't
Equalization
have it both ways. We can't give you a lot and then get a lot in property taxes.
It requires, yes.
¿Ya saliste?
And then ask Rick to read it.
Moreno. I just want to mention, and I don't know if I'm at the right time, but, we had these issues of the roofing problems at Cigarroa and Dovalina. And I believe that we need some extra cash, like $250,000 to get it fixed. I don't know if this would come into being right now, or we can take it up later. Because, it's going to be expensive, those roofs up there. I know that it's not, I don't think it's in the CIP that it's coming
I think
into Revere.
First, we have to make sure that that's something we can discuss. We know we are talking budget, but we're not in a position to add to this.
No, I just want to
So we
mention,
might have to talk about it at another time, is what I'm
Why don't I just accept trustee Pettis's comments and bring back
And
an
be
agenda item for
prepared
us
with an
to...
agenda item.
We need to talk about roofs in general based on this last rain.
Right.
So
Right.
we'll bring a
Look at
detailed...
I'm going two things. That, it has to be brought back to it later on. But even if it's not in any kind of projection that we need to change the roof, we have to have that emergency funding, or we have to find money that goes into, this is something that is needed now, which we didn't see coming. So
Yes, sir.
we're going to have to find something.
We'll discuss it in detail with this entire board at our next scheduled full board meeting.
My
We'll
other
also discuss it in operations.
My other question to you, Dr. Morelos kind of telling me something. With our 70-30, does that change in our bond on what we get back from the
EDA.
Did anything- did they have any
No,
adjustment to it?
yes, it does. Sometimes you get 70%, or you could get 71, 72, 73. If you become a little wealthier, that 70 might become a 69. They might just
Correct.
give you 69%.
Right.
Yes.
But that is based on
It's-
the wealth.
And the
Very
average
little.
will be around 70%.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, the wealth is based on the values and the number of students. So if we increase in students, that makes us less wealthy, and we might even get more. So there's two components. It's not
ADA,
just the
yes.
money, the values. It's also our ADA.
And tax
Well,
effort,
We
right.
can surpass it, we can increase the level of enrollment, but if the property values go up at the same time, we get less per student by the
Less
state.
state aid, yes.
So it's a balancing act, that
Correct.
the formula that they have, that you can't have it both ways. We
Right.
either do one or the other. But there's also a fine line that if we increase the level of students at a higher rate, that our property values goes up,
They give
we
you
can
more.
actually get more on both sides.
Right.
You know, the other thing, the reason why I bring this up, I really would charge finance with, so we had a meeting today with Region 1. So one of the things they were talking about is the upcoming legislative session. And to make a long story short, I think that we should be developing a list of formulas that are calculated at the state that impact us, and talk to Mo Casey about that. Because I'd anticipate that across the state, there's fixing to be a legislative push to amend formulas. Now, maybe there's some, Ms. Ayala, like you just said very well, they've been doing this for several decades, they're not going to change that. But I can tell you one that I think is ripe for discussion is the weights each kid gets. Has not been changed since the legislative
Long time.
session in the 70s. And so think about that. Kids that are LEP, the funding formula has not changed since the 70s.
That's discrimination.
Well,
It could be when we argue it. You see,
But the point is that could also get lowered.
it could, and we definitely want to avoid
Because
that.
at the time that they put those weights, there wasn't the same number of students as there is now.
Exactly.
So what cost the state a certain amount at one point is now costing the state much more.
A lot of that, yeah, so, I think we need to put this on the agenda and discuss our legislative platform clearly, but I think
Yes.
you're absolutely right, Dr. Moreno. Continue.
And on the notice of the rollback rate, the highest tax rate the district can adopt before requiring voter approval at an election is 1.3991. This election will automatically held if the district adopts a rate in excess of the rollback rate of 1.3991.
Let me ask you on what we were just talking about earlier. Do we have, even if we do find those formulas of how are they going to work for or against this, unless, I guess the wording is, unless we can figure out a way of being preemptive in some of these cases,
We do. We do have formulas, we do have calculations, we do have the consultant. When people are talking about them at the legislation level, we start playing around with those numbers and see the impact to our district. But we
Well,
do
I mean,
have
but
tools
but
available.
Moak and those guys have, I guess they got a pretty good handle on what's going on over there. Do they usually give you, we haven't reviewed them. I mean, I don't know what kind of, obviously the relationship is good with you guys.
Yes,
So I would assume that they're keeping you in line with what's going on.
Every
at that
month.
level, every month out
Yes.
there? Okay.
So this is a public hearing. Do we have anyone that wishes to speak for or against? Anyone that wishes to speak for or against? Anyone for or against? If we don't have,
I move that we close the public hearing.
I second it.
we have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Meeting is closed. It is now time for a regular meeting, special call meeting. The Laredo ISD Board of Trustees special call meeting, Thursday, August the 25th. It is 5:36 p.m. We're in the Amber Yuri Boardroom, and we will have roll call.
Dr. Celia Moreno,
Present?
Mr. Hector Noyola,
Here.
Mr. Jesus Martinez present, Mr. Jose Valdez,
Absent.
Mr. Ricardo Garza, Mr. Hector Garcia,
Present.
Mr. Jose R. Perez.
Present.
We have a quorum, Madam President.
We have a quorum. Yes, Dr. Nelson?
Thank you, Dr. Moreno. Our Director of Tax Collections, Mr. Rodolfo Sanchez, will take us through our first three agenda items while he makes his way to the docket to present the information and ask the board to consider action. I would like to recognize one of our hardest working departments in our school district, with all due respect. Our finance department is here deep, and I wanted to thank all of the ladies and gentlemen who work so very diligently each day. We have staff accountants, directors, coordinators, and I just wanted to, would y'all all please stand at this time and be recognized, the finance department that is here? I know that it's actually a department that's often is overlooked unless there's a problem. Then everyone's ready to call it out quick, but I know that it's a very tight team. Ms. Ayala is very proud and often quick to recognize the time and effort that your department puts into making our district successful. Our awards speak for themselves out of our finance department. Our ratings with the state is second to no one in this state, and so all of that is because of your time and attention, and we thank you. So thanks again.
When's the last time, you know, that accounts got a standing ovation?
Yeah, it doesn't happen.
We haven't recognized that.
1997. Yeah. Mr. Sanchez, you take us through our first three items, please?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Dr. Nelson. Dr. Moreno and board members, good evening. Item number one has to do with the certification of the 2016 property values. If you look at the screen, you will note we have set up a schedule there that gives you the market values, the appraised values, assessed values, and I'm most concerned to all of us is always going to be the taxable value. If you look at the taxable value, line number 4, and go all the way across to the third column under variance, you will note that this year we had an increase of 60 million, excuse me, 60,972,827. Every year, we work with the appraisal district very closely throughout the years to ensure that when...
It's important that we make a note of that just in case there's any other questions along the way. The taxable values did increase.
That is correct, yes, ma'am. Throughout the year, our office worked with the appraisal district very closely so that when we come to this evening, we can certify, and I do certify this evening, that the property values for tax year 2016 as listed above are true and correct as certified by the Webb County Appraisal Chief Appraiser, Mr. Martin Villarreal, on July 25th, 2016.
So moved to approve as presented.
We have a motion and a second to approve.
I have a question.
Let me finish the motion. The local property values as certified by Mr. Sanchez. Yes.
Mr. Sanchez, how much land do we have in LIZ that is rated agriculture for tax break?
We got practically none. The largest parcel was what was known as the Slaughter Farms, which was bought a couple of years ago in South Laredo and converted to a park area. We got probably, I'm going to say about less than 100 acres
I think,
of agricultural value.
I think it was in that report, that disc that you gave us that had the report from the tax office. I think if there's any, it would be on there.
Yeah, it's on there, but
Yeah.
it's very, very, very small. I mean, insignificant amount of value, and
So
I would,
you said about 100 acres?
approximately. I'd have to look it up, and I can send you that in the board update, but it does not exceed that number.
Thank you.
In the same, how much property do we have within our school district that the county or city has some kind, I've been asking this for a while, that they're not paying taxes to us? That tax exempt, that the city or county gives a tax exemption, but that doesn't apply to the school district. How many of those properties are out there? Because I heard that there were several.
Well, the school districts not have a financial property, a TIF is what they call it.
Right.
Zones. So the city and the county do have those. They do not apply to the school district. I don't have exactly what that value is. However, whatever that number is, it is taxable in the school district.
Right.
I can get you that information.
We're not getting, that.
And
We're not getting.
Well, we're not exempting the properties. They are being taxed.
We're not
Okay,
receiving taxes on that.
it could be that unless Mr. Garcia is asking about properties that are owned by the county or by the city, don't get taxed.
That's one of them.
Right.
Yeah,
Those don't get taxed.
those are tax exempt.
Right, but ones they sell and ones they lease out to other companies
That's what I'm...
that they give a tax exemption, those are the ones we're not receiving any kind of,
We've been working with the appraisal district on that for the last 2 years. We have identified several properties within the last year that are technically, as we call, owned, let's say, by the city. But when they go to lease them and they become income-producing properties, we have located a couple of those, and they have begun to put them back on the tax roll.
But how
We are
much-
continuously working, we have identified all the properties, we're continuously working with the appraisal district.
but is there a penalty prior to that we just put them on the tax, but they haven't been paying their fair share? That's my, it's not worth it?
Once the appraisal district does their analysis, they will, and they have done in several properties that we identified, they have gone back several years. Okay, and there is penalties and interest attached to those previous years.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Next item,
No,
We are,
I would talk
oh,
about,
no, we just seconded.
No.
we had a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item number 2.
Madam President, if I may proceed?
yeah.
Thank you. I will read the item as it reads. Discussing possible action to approve 4 required certification by Director of Tax Collections as listed below. Item number 2A, anticipated debt collection rate for tax year 2016, fiscal year 2016-17. The anticipated collection rate, debt collection rate is 100%. We have always used 100% because that is what we can maximize our local effort and the state funding as well. We have provided you a breakdown of the debt service for this past year, and you will note that the debt service coming up is $26,953,113, of which $12.6 million is paid through the existing debt allotment, $7.1 million is paid through the instructional facilities allotment. We do not go into the fund balance to pay any of the debt service. However, in the new coming property values for the new year, there's $7.2 million, of which will be collected and payable for the debt service.
This is what, when we say 70/30,
Yes.
this is what it is right here. Here's 46% and 26% that's being paid by the state.
Okay.
and then 26% that's being paid by us through our taxes.
It's slightly more than 73% is paid by the state. So if I may, Madam President, Adolfo Sanchez, Director of Tax Collections for the Laredo Independent School District, do hereby certify a collection rate of 100% for the local debt service for fiscal year 2016-2017.
So move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the required certification for the anticipated debt collection tax rate for tax year 2016. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Next certification?
Thank you, Dr. Moreno. The next certification has to do with the excess debt collections for the tax year 2015, which is the fiscal year 15-16. I will point out to the second set of bullet points, the first one on that set, and it reads as follows. If a tax unit collects more than 100%, it will use 100% of debt service funds collected and report no excess funds. What that statement means is that even though we collect more than 100% of the budget amount, we are allowed by the tax code to use 100% and the excess of over that amount, in this case, which would be $141,479, goes back into the debt service fund. If I may, Dr. Moreno, Adolfo Sanchez, Director of Tax Collections for the Laredo Independent School District, do hereby certify that there are no excess reportable debt collections for tax year 2015.
So move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the certification for excess debt collections for tax year 2015, fiscal year 2015-2016. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you, Dr. Moreno. Our next certification is a 2016 certification of the rollback tax rate. That has briefly been touched by our CFO earlier during the public hearing. Again, I would point to bullet point number 3 as being the key point, which reads, any tax rate greater than 1.3991 per $100 valuation will trigger an automatic rollback election. An automatic tax rate ratification election would occur within 90 days. The following bullet point reads, in order to avoid an automatic rollback election, staff recommends that the school district adopt a tax rate that is less than the rollback rate, and the tax rate being proposed is less than the rollback rate. If I may, Dr. Moreno, just make the certification. I, Adolfo Sanchez, Director of Tax Collections for the Laredo Independent School District, do hereby certify that the 2016 tax year rollback tax rate for fiscal year 2016-2017 is 1.3991 per $100 valuation.
So move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the rollback tax rate for 2016 tax year. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you, Dr. Moreno. And the fourth certification has to do with the unencumbered fund balance for tax year 2015, fiscal year 2015-2016. As you will note on the M&O, the estimated unaudited fund balance for the maintenance and operating fund for fiscal year ending August 31st, 2016 is $66,703,314. And for the INS, the estimated unencumbered fund balance for the interest and sinking fund as of fiscal year ending August 31st, 2016 is $919,881. You will remember these two numbers from our public hearing. They do appear on the publication. Dr. Moreno, I, Rodolfo Sanchez, Director of Tax Collections for the Laredo Independent School District, do hereby certify that the estimated unaudited fund balances for maintenance and operation fund and the interest and sinking fund as listed above are true and correct as of date of calculation.
So move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the estimated unencumbered fund balance for maintenance and operation and the unencumbered fund balance for interest and sinking funds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you, Dr. Moreno. Thank you, Dr. Nelson.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Sanchez. Hey, Mr. Sanchez, before you go real quick, What do the acronym RTA and CSTA represent on your, at the end of your name?
Yes, sir. RTA represents for Registered Tax Assessor Collector. CSTA stands for Certified School Tax Administrator.
And what did you have to do to earn those credentials?
Both of them, the first one is required in order to be a tax assessor collector in the state of Texas. We go to education classes, we had to pass all the classes, and then from there on after, once we get certified, we had to continuously go on an annual basis for continuing education classes to stay abreast with all the changes in the tax code.
And every school district in the state has to have a registered tax assessor?
In order for the certifications that are being presented tonight, the person does have to be registered with the state of Texas as a tax assessor collector. He should have there are two different certifications. A CTA is a certified tax collector. He can only collect taxes. An RTA, a registered tax assessor collector, assesses and collects taxes. So my certification allows this school district for the board to assess a levy on the property values herein discussed.
Thank you, Mr. Sanchez.
Yes, sir.
If we were not collecting our own taxes, we would have to use
Someone who's
someone
certified.
else that is certified for these reports.
That is correct, yes.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir. May I proceed, Dr. Moreno?
Yes.
Thank you. Item number 3 is discussion and possible action to approve the 2016-2017 annual budget to include want to take them one at a time?
Go ahead, everything.
I have it all in one presentation.
All right.
So Yes. May I
So
proceed?
we're asking for a motion and a second for us to
So
present.
move.
Second, what's the question?
A, Child Nutrition Fund, B, the E-rate Fund, C, Athletics Fund, D, Technology Fund, E, General Operating Fund, and F, Debt Service. Ms. Ayala will go over those, and we're asking for approval on
Would you
3A
like for
through
me
F.
to go over each one, or do you feel comfortable
We feel comfortable.
adopting each one?
No, we can come back and ask later on, because we had talked about
Right.
about positions, right? Because I had asked about the history, our history dean, that we only have one person. Where's the second one? I haven't seen it. They were going to bring it to us before this budget was approved. So we,
So move to approve.
right?
Yeah, that's my preference, yes, sir. But we definitely will keep it
So
on the
we have a
front
motion
And a
and a
second.
second to approve these budgets,
burner. 3A through F.
A through F, without presentation? Is that what I'm
Right.
asking,
Yes.
or?
Yeah.
Most of them have been discussed
Well, you
before.
have it
Had
right
it
there.
before.
So, are there any questions or comments?
At this point, for
It's
me.
not, okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
That brings us to item number 4, if we may, Dr. Moreno, discussion and possible action to approve a resolution to adopt a tax rate in 2 parts for the 2016 tax year, 2016-2017 fiscal year, A, maintenance and operating rate, and B, debt service rate.
So move to approve.
This is the one we have to read it out
You have to read it on
completely, right?
I'd like to move that the property tax rate for fiscal year 2016-2017 be adopted for the purpose of maintenance and operations.
So
At a
moved.
rate of $1.04 per $100 valuation and
Point 30.
0.3497 for the payment of principal and interest on the debt of this school district, which is effectively a 5.67% increase in the tax rate.
Yes, sir.
So move.
Second.
Can I ask
Yes,
a question?
I know you have a question. Go ahead.
Okay, can you, Ms. Ayala, can you go over the processes of how we got here?
Is it attached?
To the
Many
tax
long
rate.
hours of work.
Right.
Too many long hours of work.
Well, that was the one before. All right.
I think the main question is, why is it an increase when we're paying less?
Yeah,
Right, I understand
let me
that-
explain that to you.
Property values went up, and
It's a formula. you have to use the same
Need to be on the
value
record.
for each year in order for you to compare.
Right.
If you look up on the screen, you probably see it also on your desk, you'll see how we came across, why we have to require by law, say that effectively is a key word to it. The effective tax rate is different from the rollback rate, is different from the proposed tax rate. The effective tax rate is a rate that when you adjust the prior year for those properties to equal to those properties that are only in the new fiscal year, when you use apples and apples and apply the M&O rate, then that rate would have been 1.3151.
Correct.
That would give you the same levy in both years.
1.4151?
1.3151.
31, yeah, that's right.
Okay? Now, anytime, and this is based on the tax code, anytime a proposed tax rate is greater than the effective tax rate, at that point, which it is by .0746, and the percentage increase of the proposed tax rate when compared to the effective tax rate is 5.67. Now, these are all basically technical formulas that we had to make known to the public. Keep in mind that the effective tax rate, 1.3151 rather, does not fund the budget for the new fiscal year. Okay? The proposed tax rate does.
Have you ever seen a case where the items are reversed? That would be called the rollback, wouldn't it?
If you have a rollback election only if the proposed rate, when
Right,
compared to the rollback rate, is greater than
Than
the
the effective
rollback
rate,
rate.
yeah.
The rollback rate being 1.3991.
Right.
So if our proposed rate were greater than that rate, then you would have an automatic rollback election. In school district, there are no petitions.
Okay.
So we run all these formulas, we check them all, just to ensure that when we make a proposed tax rate, we fall in line with all the categories, as I don't think we would want to have, unless there are major financial situations, which I'm not aware of, that we would ever want to be at a tax rate greater than the rollback rate.
So we have a motion and a second to approve a resolution to adopt a tax rate in two parts for the tax year 2016-17. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion
Ms.
passes.
Moreno, before we adjourn,
Hold on one second. Before we adjourn, we just wanted to, I apologize, Trustee Pettis, I just feel like it's real important that we acknowledge that on Monday, you will celebrate another birthday, and I wanted to be the first to wish you a happy birthday.
thank you.
My office has prepared a cake for you, and so we want you and your family and the board to enjoy that cake. And also, we have, tomorrow night, we have the graduation at 6 o'clock p.m., and then we'll start our Friday Night Lights football season tomorrow night at 7:30. And so that's what's happening tomorrow, and on Monday, Mr. Pettis' birthday. That's all we have, Dr. Moreno.
I have
Yes,
something,
Mr.
yes.
Perez.
Yes, I want to announce to the public, especially the South Laredo schools, the area that I'll be running for the third time this coming November. I appreciate your support, and I would like for you to support me because we have created a great team of 8 here, and we're looking out for all the children's welfare and education. Quiero avisarles a todo el público, especialmente los del sur, Cigarroa, Caguas, Sacri, Ligarde, Santo Niño, que me prostré como candidato para la mesa directiva de la escuela. Hemos hecho muy buen trabajo aquí con mis compañeros, porque uno solo no puede hacer nada, pero con los compañeros se puede hacer todo como sí se puede. Gracias. Thank you.
So do we have a motion to adjourn?
So move to
We have
Second.
a motion to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank
I don't understand why the counts didn't get a cake also.
Well,
I gotta look at,
we'll make that
I'll
happen.
send you a cake over to your office,
So
don't
will
worry.
we. Good point, good point.
I want to say,
Thanks again, everybody. Appreciate your work.
it's going
Good
to be
job.
broken out in fractions.